Welcome back, welcome back. India. In India, at least 35 people have died in violence in the north of the country following protests by the Gujjar community about their status in the caste system. The Gujjars are classified by the government as OBCs, or other backward class, but they want to be relegated to STs, or scheduled tribes, because this would mean that they would have better access then to education and jobs which are granted to that group. And we're now joined by Sachin Pilot, Member of Parliament for the town of Dausa, where 20 Gujjars have been cremated after being killed by the police in the riots. We welcome you. How are things today? How are things this week there? How bad are they?
Well, the good thing is that there's no more violence, and fortunately the killings have stopped. But it still is a precarious situation where we have 39 people who were shot down by the police. And earlier in your talk, you were mentioning that the violence, it's not a violence of classes or communities. It's the state police which has opened fire, and so many innocent lives were lost.
And the current status of talks. Are there going to be more talks soon?
Well, we all believe, and I think I say this for everyone when I speak out and say that no matter how grave a situation is or how large a problem is, we can always find the solutions only through talks. I think the greatest enemies in the world have got together and had talks and found a way out. So I am quite confident that something positive will come out of the talks. It does not take away from the fact that so many people have been shot dead and their families are grieving for the loss of the loved ones. And I think it's indicative of the fact that in a democracy, in a civil society, such kind of police brutality are not accepted, and certainly not in the state of Rajasthan, which is historically a very peaceful state.
How do the Gujjars want their position to change? What are they asking for? What are they looking for in this change of status?
But to tell you the truth, officially, since India has been independent for 61 years, there is no caste system. But on the ground, the realities are a bit different. And I think affirmative action is something which is mandated in our constitution, and we all agree with that. And I think world over, affirmative action has paid dividends for inequality and for lack of opportunity that some classes face. I think the OBCs and the Gujjar community was promised by the state government of Rajasthan, which is a BJP nationalist Hindu government, that you give us your votes and we will give you this status. There are certain parameters within the constitution and some legal framework within which all of this operates. It's a very, very clearly laid out formula. And I think if communities and castes that meet that criteria should be given that classification, or else not. The problem arises when certain political parties try and make use of such promises for electoral gains, and I think that is what has caused the biggest problem in the state of Rajasthan. But I can tell you that things are now beginning to come under control. There is no more violence. There are still some spouts of agitation, but by and large, I think people realize, and I reaffirm what I said earlier, that talking to people, talking to governments, negotiating, and having the political initiative is the only way forward.
And in terms of what they're seeking, if they get this change of status that they're asking for, they will get better education or more jobs. What will be the benefits?
Well, everyone in the world knows that India is the second fastest growing economy in the world, and growing at 9% a year. Everybody wants a piece of the India's growth story. I think when the economy grows so fast, everybody wants to get the opportunity to educate their children, to have better prospects for getting a job. It's only natural to be more socially upwardly mobile. And I think a greater participation in the governance, in the administration, in the bureaucracy, in education, in jobs, I think it's what everyone aspires for. And I think when someone plays politics over how much they can give without realizing how difficult it can be for it to pass through the legal scrutiny, that's when the trouble arises. I think by and large people are quite happy with what they have, but they certainly want to get more and more of the pie that is there for the taking.
And there's more of the pie if they go down in their status here, because they get greater grants, because that's where the affirmative action comes in.
Well, that's one way of looking at it. And I think if you take a holistic view of the situation, India is a country of 1 billion people. And I think everyone has an equal opportunity to move forward in life. And if some people feel that they have been held back because of social biases and prejudices or historical baggage, I think it is the responsibility of the people at the helm of affairs to make sure that there is parity in terms of what opportunities come their way. And by getting reclassified as a certain category of communities, if more opportunities come their way, there's nothing wrong in that. But like I said earlier, one should not play politics over such promises, and one must only go by what is there in the Indian Constitution and what is legally possible. And I think once we all follow that pattern, we would not have had the situation that we've had in Rajasthan.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Mr. Pilot, for joining us and making that all so clear. We appreciate it, and we hope that the peace that's descended, the end of the violence, is indeed the end of the violence over there, and that situation will not recur again, we hope. Thank you very much indeed.
I hope so too. You're welcome.
Well, that's it for this week. Our thanks to Sachin Pilot there, and of course, in addition to President Hamid Karzai, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and that bravest of authors, Terry Pratchett. Do join us same time next week for Frost Over the World.